The 2016-17 provincial budget saw operating funding for school divisions cut by $22 million. What is your plan for restoring education funding to previous levels?
Well, I do know that school divisions are dealing with increased students, and I also know that we're dealing with increasing numbers of challenged students, students with special needs, students that have English as a second language as a challenge for us. So what I need to do is have a conversation with those who know the system best and understand what those solutions might look like. I need to have a conversation with school trustees. I need to have a conversation with teachers to understand how do we make sure that funds are put into the classroom. That's where we need to see more funding. So are there ways to make savings available in other parts of the system? I already know there's some work underway in the Education Governance Renewal Initiative where maybe we can see some savings from bulk purchases. So it's conversations with those who know the system best as to how we can get funds to the classroom, to the students where the resources are needed the most.
Teachers know the importance of inclusive education. This means accommodating students regardless of their physical, emotional, intellectual, or social differences. To be implemented successfully, it requires supports for students and teachers. How will you support inclusive education?
So diversity, I think, is really a valuable part of our education system. I know my education was a different experience than my daughter's, and there was a great deal of value and richness to their education as a result of being in the classroom with students of cultural diversity, cognitive and physical diversity. I think the situation here is we need to make sure there's resources available for the classroom. I know there's a special funding available, $234 million to school divisions to have that for flexible funding where resources are needed. I've talked about a wraparound service model where we work with community partners, we work with a more coordinated approach across the system, whether that's health, education, social services, so that we can ensure that the resources are there to wrap our services around those students who have some of these significant challenges so that we can continue to have an inclusive system that has diversity in the classroom. I think that's where we have the best education. And I talk to teachers as well about what they've got to offer for solutions.
One of the most important relationships in education is the relationship between students and their teachers. Teachers know their students, their families, and their communities. How will you ensure local voices are heard?
Well, as an elected school trustee, I know exactly the difference that local governance and local involvement can make in the school system. The knowledge at the local level is the best knowledge that's available. So I'm committed to local school board governance. With respect to teachers, I highly value and respect teachers. They are our front line. They make such a difference in students' lives. I know that from my own daughter's experience, and I know that as an elected school trustee. So I'm absolutely committed to having a strong working relationship with teachers. We need to be, listening. We need to be asking for advice. They're the experts. They know best as to how we can meet students' needs. I'm committed to having that long-term working and respectful relationship with teachers and also with local school trustees who, as I said again, they know best what's going on the front line in our schools.
The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child guarantees access to high-quality public education. What steps will you take to ensure students across our province receive a high-quality education within Saskatchewan's publicly funded public education system?
I think we have a good quality of education in Saskatchewan, but things can always be better. And I think the opportunity here is for us to see continued growth in the economy so that we've got the resources available to invest in education, which is so fundamentally important for success of our students. We already know we've seen Saskatchewan people be successful, whether that be in business or arts and science or industry or academia. So we know that our school system has been working for us, but there's always room for improvement. I'm committed to having conversations with those who know best, again, experts, teachers, and those who understand the system best, and what's it going to take to invest where it's needed, what's it going to take to get those resources to the classroom, to the students where it can make the most difference. So again, here we need to look at efficiencies in the system, and we need to make sure we're making the best use of the dollars that we are investing. And with further growth in the economy and further strength, we'll have more money to invest where it's needed and continue to see improvements in the system.
The Canadian Teachers Federation says safe and caring schools are a major priority for the profession at the national level, yet teachers are expressing growing concern about violence in schools. What is your plan for promoting safe and caring schools in our province?
The key here is to have supports in the school available. So, this is a challenging situation for teachers. So things like mental health first aid, so that we can assess students where they have needs and where we think there's a risk of violence. And so giving them the supports where needed. We already know that we have the threat assessment program that's being used by a few school divisions across the province. We probably need to expand that and see that being provided everywhere. I also know that partners like the Red Cross provide some really excellent programming on anti-bullying, again, so that we can ensure our schools are safe and that teachers have the supports available. I also think that we need to look at bringing people together to provide best practice stories and sharing and providing a forum for that. I was supportive of communities of practice when I was head of the public service in Saskatchewan. What if the government and SDF could work together to provide a forum for teachers to be able to share where they think some best practices are being used, some solutions in schools to keep schools safe, bringing teachers together with social workers, the police force, and community partners. I think this is something that we need to think about.